All right, welcome back. It is Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. Craig, Mish, George Kurtz. We are right now in the thick of our first fantasy baseball show of the upcoming 2025 season as we put football on the back burner. Until we get to the draft, we'll dive, I'm sure, more into that. But for now, we continue our look back at what happened last year, see if it translates into this year as well. So, George, let's start off with some of the outfielders in fantasy and get your opinion as to whether or not you think that they can repeat, better, worse, etc., and some players changing places as well. Aaron Judge was the number one outfielder last year with over 1,200 fantasy points. Schwarber 1,000. The big surprise was Brent Rooker, who got the contract extension with the Athletics. What a great year for Brent Rooker last year. Marcell Ozuna with Atlanta, also a great year. Teoscar's back in L.A. There's Juan Soto. You know him. We won't talk about him. Jarren Duran on Boston came into his own. Anthony Santander goes from Baltimore to Toronto. Ian Happ. And then the player who was taken probably at the top of this list, call me crazy, last year, is now was 10th last year. Corbin Carroll. It took him like 5 months, strange, to get going last year. So that's how it shook out last year.
Yeah, and that's it. This year we have a couple of interesting ones, right? Will Judge be as good without Juan Soto here? Kyle Tucker not going to be in Houston anymore, right? Now he's going to Chicago. How does that affect him? People forget, just because you're playing in Wrigley, that wind blows in more often than it does out. All right, so that could affect what Kyle Tucker does there. Not to mention a different kind of lineup here. Jordan Alvarez, can he stay healthy? Another guy is always hurt. All right, so that's going to scare me a little bit with Alvarez. I'm not really as worried about Carroll. I think Carroll's going to be okay. When the sophomore blues takes a little bit, I think he's going to be good. I'll take Carroll. Plus, I need my bags. Tatis is another guy here that is he going to reach that superstar status, Craig? I mean, it started off well, then he got suspended, and last year was okay. So I kind of wonder there. I've already said Acuna. I doubt I'm going to have him. He's ranked, 10th in this list here. He won't be on my team because I just don't think he's going to be that player this year. I think he'll be great again, but I think it's more of a next year thing, not a this year thing. How about the two last year's rookies that were fantastic? Churio and Merrill. Are they going to do it again? Or are they going to have the sophomore blues that we just saw Corbin Carroll have? Because teams have been looking all off season to find the holes in their swings. And baseball, what do they say? Baseball's a game of adjustments. Can they make the adjustments here? That being said, I said it earlier. Most leagues, you're drafting at least 4 outfielders, or starting 4, I should say. A lot of leagues, it's 5. Outfielders come up the board fast, hard, heavy here, and I will invest in them hard. That's why my first round is almost always an outfielder. Listen, I'm going to go BPA here, but I really want to take an outfielder, probably 2 of my first 4 picks.
Yeah, I mean, usually these leagues you have to have 5 outfielders play in roto leagues, so it does make sense. And George mentioned a lot of names, by the way, that came up at some point this season. Another hot name last year, Wyatt Langford, also on the Texas Rangers too. So keep an eye on a lot of these young players going from year 1 to year 2. Chorio is a big buy-in, I think, for a lot of people, and maybe the reason why Milwaukee's done nothing this offseason. All right, here's the scoring for the next tier of outfielders from last year. To me, there's one name we must circle here. I'll get to it in a minute. Nimmo, you see at 858. O'Neal Cruz, 856. Adolis Garcia, 847. Chisholm, who played center for Miami and then moved over to the infield. But really, this name that I want to circle is right there at 15. That's Brenton Doyle. What a season this guy had last year. I mean, people think he's the best defensive center fielder in baseball as well and plays at altitude. And let's not forget, George, it's always good to have Rockies on your fantasy roster. Then you have Brian Reynolds, Cowser, Julio Rodriguez. Why this guy starts slow every year, I can't figure it out. Maybe you could tell me. Taylor Ward, Seiya Suzuki. Those close out the top 20.
Yeah, what was the old saying? When in doubt, draft a Rocky. Right there, you sort of can't go wrong there. And I like Brenton Doyle. I know I had him in one league at the maybe the last half of last season. He was fantastic. Oh, it's just points every day. So yeah, I'm a Doyle guy as well there. As for Julio Rodriguez, I have no answer for you. I don't know. All right, but he's the guy. Yeah, well, let somebody else draft him and trade for him in June. You have to eat it for a couple weeks before he takes off in the second half. He does the same thing every season. The ballpark is rough. It's a pitcher's ballpark, not a hitter's ballpark. But Rodriguez is another guy. He's a huge name. Everybody knows the name. He's going to go earlier than he probably should. Probably going top 3 rounds, and I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that for a guy who I know or I expect is going to be unproductive or not as productive as he should be the first couple of seasons here. So I'm going to have problems with it. Taylor Ward, Suzuki, not guys I love here. Cowser's a guy you'd like to see the Orioles not platoon him, but I do worry about it, about him doing that with him, because I think, once again, someone on the Orioles is going to have a breakout. Maybe more than one of these young players that we keep talking about. And I'm hoping it's going to be cows to this guy. But like I said, the Orioles have so many good young players that they get to a slow start and they start platooning guys. They start give someone else a chance there. So it's going to be hard to trust the Orioles.
Yeah, I think Acuna is the polarizing name here as I'm sort of looking at, the numbers. And, the other player we didn't mention, the top 10, missed some time here, is Kyle Tucker. And George, I don't, he was, I think, a top 3 fantasy pick last season. And to me, I do think he plays well in Chicago. I know that it's a different kind of ballpark than the one in Houston, but I don't see that affecting him. I do think that there's a pretty high ceiling for him. I just wonder why Houston chose to make the move that they did there. I thought he was a building block for the future. They didn't see it that way.
My guess is they weren't going to sign him, right? He's going to get a massive contract. He's not getting Juan Soto, but he's getting north of 400. And I guess they didn't feel he's that kind of player. I mean, I agree with you. I think he is a building block. Once again, as a Yankee fan, love to have him in pinstripes after next season, or after this season, I guess I should say, but we'll see about that. I think when you're looking at the Cubbies, it's not the same lineup as Houston. It's not the same ballpark. He's going to a different league, so all these things factor in for me, where he may not be the same kind of player. The wind generally does blow in at Wrigley more often than it does blow out, so that could affect him as well. He's a superstar. He's an absolute superstar. Probably not you said he was a top 3 pick. He was certainly a first-round pick last year. I think he's a second-round pick for me this year. Maybe some leagues he falls, maybe some leagues he doesn't. I wouldn't mind getting him, but it would be in the back of my mind that he may only be 80-85% of the player he was in Houston. That's still damn good. And he was hurt a lot last year too, by the way. Remember, he had the leg injury. So that could affect him as well here. But I do still like Tucker, just not as – I'm not going to like anybody, Craig, as much as I liked them the year before with their old team. They were great with their old team. It's hard to be great from day one with your new team unless you're Juan Soto.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is a thing going from team to team. You just never know. How about from park to park? How are we analyzing? I mean, Oakland, the formerly Oakland A's, George, did make a lot of moves in the offseason to sort of stay relevant. Brent Rooker hit 39 home runs last year in that park. I would have to assume that this AAA park that they're playing in has got to be easier than Oakland, right? Like, I mean, maybe Rooker has more, has like a 50 home run season this year, and the A's gave him more money too.
Well, I think what you said is true. All right, it has to be better than Oakland. All right, it just has to be. All right, so I'll go with that. It can't be any worse than that. All right, we know the marine layer there at night. The ball doesn't travel. Blah blah blah. The ballpark just wasn't, it was just a big ballpark. So I'll say he gets, as far as the ballpark, can't be any worse. Probably better. Rooker came out of nowhere, so it goes into that 1 year wonder category for me. Not last year good. All right, not last year good. The bottom line is this: he's likely going to go higher than what I'm going to be comfortable with. I have guys who I put in 1 year wonder categories. Doesn't mean they can't do it again, but they've only done it once. I'm a big guy. I guess I'll show my age here. I like looking at the back of a baseball card, and I know what the player's going to do. Generally they put up very similar numbers year after year. I know how many home runs he's going to hit. I know how many stolen bases, what the average is going to be, how many ribbies. I just like being able to see that. And Rooker, I'm not there with that yet. If he has another big year, then next year I'll be all in on him. But this year, you probably won't see him on too many of my teams. He's going to go earlier than I think I'm going to be comfortable with.
The same guy, the same team. We I don't even think he's going to show up on our next list as well. Lawrence Butler last year, 22 home runs, George, 18 stolen bases. I mean, look, the A's have some players, man. Like
they do, they can hit.
They got some players. All right, let's take a quick timeout. We'll go through the final 10 outfielders based on last year's stats, 21 through 30, coming up next, including one MVP candidate every year. Go back.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom It definitely is more deliberate in his conversations. Always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Skovron when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who know how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs have a 5.5-game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5-game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's is offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today. We continue taking a look at the outfield position in fantasy baseball, and certainly a lot of big names here on this list too, including number 25, George, who Houston seems to be all in on. Like, they've let everybody go except Jordan, so they are hoping that Jordan is the superstar that they want him to be. He still does qualify in the outfield, played some left field last year, but Spencer Steer. Remember Steer and McLean going into fantasy season? A lot of people still high on that Reds offense. They had some serious injuries last year. That was part of it. Riley Green on Detroit. Arozarena's now in Seattle. For those of you who missed the end of last season, Nick Castellanos, you pretty much know what you're getting there. Jordan's in Houston. Tyler O'Neill, 3rd team in 3 years. St. Louis, Boston, now goes to Baltimore, so good spot for him there. Jackson Chourio, who we know is going to go a lot higher than you want to draft him, but that's just the reality of fantasy baseball. We always want the hot name. Brian De La Cruz, shockingly this high from last year, non-tendered by Pittsburgh. He's now a spring invite, I think, for Atlanta. Rafaela qualifies second short in the outfield. Jurickson Profar, career year with Atlanta. I'm sorry, career year last year, now is with Atlanta. Probably a pass for me. I'll go with somebody else. But those are some of the candidates here, George. You like anyone here?
I mean, I like Riley Green. I think he's another guy who's going to put it. He sort of has already put it all together. He's got a little bit of everything. Got power, got some speed there. Detroit's a better team now. Listen, they would have been better with Bregman as well here, but they're a better team. So I'm a Riley Green guy. I am staying away from Arozarena. I almost feel bad for the guy. He goes from a team that a rough ballpark in Tampa to a rough ballpark in Seattle. It doesn't get any easier. Castellanos, sort of that 4th, 5th outfield. If he's there, fine, but his best days are behind him as well. I certainly like Alvarez, but he's a guy I can't rely on. He's not playing anywhere near 162. Also, I do wonder this, with Altuve going to left field, does that mean Alvarez is your full-time DH? Although they say Altuve is going to play second base and left field, which means when he doesn't, I mean, it's a weird situation there. Love Chourio. I think he's not going to be 27th next season. If we do the show a year from now, he's moving in probably
top
half
5.
that. I think he'll be a top 15 outfield, if not better than that. It's the outfield is deep. He may not be able to get that high. Anybody else? De La Cruz, Rafaela, Profar, no. I'm not as high on. But Chourio on this list, Alvarez, of course, and Riley Green would be my top 3.
Okay, fair enough. Some names. Are we going to pitchers here, Sam? I forgot. Okay, we are. Just some names not here, George. Let me throw them out. Dylan Cruz on the Washington Nationals, a name that's going higher in drafts than maybe some people expect. Is Christian Yelich still for you in this conversation, an MVP several years ago. If you look at his numbers based on the games that he played last season, fantastic season. Maybe, I don't think he's going back to the Christian Yelich of 50 home runs, but definitely very draftable. And Giancarlo Stanton, I don't know that he qualifies anymore anyway, but got to bring him up too.
I don't know if he qualifies as an outfield. He didn't play much outfield for the Yankees last year. He may be your DH. If Stanton would ever hit during the regular season like he does during the playoffs, my God. He also plays, so we'll see what Stanton does there. Stanton's probably just a DH for me. As far as Yelich, I think he's iffy for opening day at best. You know, he's got the micro, whatever for the back thing. No, I'm not touching him. I am not touching Yelich because once again, he's a name guy who's probably going to go a little earlier than I would feel comfortable with. I don't think he's going to start opening day. He may miss part of April, and I don't think he's playing every game after that. I think that we have to manage his back injury maybe for the rest of his career. So Yelich is going to be that guy where, you know what, let someone else take him. Let him be someone else's problem. He won't be mine.
All right, George Springer, another name from the past. He used to be a high fantasy pick, not so much anymore. All right, so those are the outfielders, and of course, we'll do deeper dives into this as we continue on and begin our fantasy baseball look ahead for 2025. All right, looking back again, the top pitcher in all of fantasy last year, Cy Young Award winner, was Tariq Skubal of Detroit. He's the highest pitcher off the board, followed by Zach Wheeler, Dylan Cease, Chris Sale you see there, Logan Gilbert, another. I mean, this is basically the rankings going into this year, minus one player who I do want to mention. Aaron Nola, Seth Lugo, Pablo Lopez, Michael King. San Diego's rotation seems pretty stacked going into the season. So conceptually, George, pitching, I don't know how you see it. I always seem to fall short on my numbers in Roto with innings and with strikeouts. Like, it just doesn't matter what I do. I always fall short. With these numbers, I'm scrambling always to pick guys up. I have to do a better job of that this year.
Yeah, I think it's because you and I have been playing forever, where generally back in the day, first 5 rounds, one starting pitcher. You know, generally how I went, and I'll fill it in with guys after that. The game has changed too much now, with all these guys throwing 1,000,000 miles an hour and strikeouts. I now need 2, you know, and I might even get 3 into the first 6 rounds. It's just changed. It's almost like I'm taking a pitcher every other round nowadays here. So yeah, also in the first 2 rounds, also round 1's the best hitter. That's just generally the way it works out for me. Round 2 is the best starting pitcher available. You know, whatever it might be there. And Zach Wheeler's a guy I seem to have I'm targeting in a lot of leagues. I don't know if I trust Chris Sale to do this again. You know, I'm not against him, mind you, but I don't know. He's getting up there in age. Can he do it again here? Dylan Cease at 4 is interesting. You mentioned the San Diego rotation. There's a lot of smoke about him being traded. All right, new ownership group there. Maybe they want to move a contract. I need to know where he's going. And it seems like there's 2 teams that make sense here, and one in each league here. The Baltimore Orioles, who did nothing as far as their pitching staff, which is I don't understand. You lose Corbin Burns, you do nothing here, and we know they have the prospects. And, of course, the New York Mets, who also didn't really add to that staff here, and they have the prospects. So I wonder if he's going to go to one of those 2 teams, which would make me feel even better about him. So I think it's the Mets, better ballpark, good team there. So I do wonder if he gets moved here.
Naturally, we'll talk Paul Skeens on this show a lot this season. Skeens did not score fantasy-wise inside the top 15, but we'll talk about him. And coming up, we'll get through 11 through 20. But the one name, George, that's going really high in fantasy, it's stunning to me how high he is going. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I guess if you're trying to win a league, you do it. I cannot believe that Jacob deGrom is one of the top pitchers off the board in fantasy this year. I can't believe it. Like, based on 5 starts.
In my home league, I can 3 keepers. I drafted. You lose the round, you kept them in. I have DeGrom like round 20, and I'm still not sure I'm keeping him. He's not making anywhere near 32 starts, 21 and a half.
He's going in the first 4 rounds of fantasy baseball this year.
No.
Be right back. He is.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Skovron, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs had a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports. Today here on SportsGrid, we're taking a look at starting pitchers in fantasy. George and I just mentioned how high Jacob deGrom is going in fantasy drafts. And again, like people are watching, like, where's Paul Skeens? These are based on last year's numbers. We're going to have plenty of shows where we look at this year's numbers. So here's how some of them scored on the back end of the top 20 last season. We have Carlos Rodon of the Yankees, Sonny Gray, Corbin Burns, who's now on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Gotta love that spot for him, by the way. Gotta be good. Freddie Peralta is going to start opening day for Milwaukee. There is Kikuchi now with the Angels. Jack Flaherty went back to Detroit. George Kirby, who at times you think he's the best pitcher in baseball. Other times you want to pull your whatever's left of your hair out, or mine in this case, or George's. Bailey Ober on Minnesota had a nice little breakout last year for him. Tanner Bibby. And then Sean Manaea, who I will say hello to and wave and pass on fantasy baseball draft day with the New York Mets. Not happening for me. So needless to say, look, there's a lot of good names here. I just would be careful off last year's scoring. That's probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, Burns should be better than 13, right? I mean, he did tail off a little bit Baltimore at the end there, but I'll take him as my SP1, no problem here. Kirby, I got to tell you, Craig, he's a guy dark horse for Cy Young. All right, I like him that much. So I am definitely a Kirby guy here. It's funny what you said about Manaea, because I was going to say, do we believe? Obviously, Craig does not. And I have my doubts as well, by the way. I mean, he's sort of going to that Chris Sale mode, the way he changed his arm angle here. I need to see it again. You know, once again, 1 year wonder. I won't have him all that much this year. We'll see what happens. The Mets need him, because if the Mets don't make a move, I mean, for Dylan Cease or another starting pitcher here, hard to see where they're not the third best team in that division. They just don't have the pitching. They just don't have it. They need Manaea to be that ace. So I don't know. Maybe he will be. Maybe he won't. You know, so we'll see there. But like I said, Kirby is definitely my guy here. Flaherty's more of an innings guy. I think he'll do well in Detroit with that ballpark. Plays well with the pitches here. Peralta going to open the season at Yankee Stadium against Garrett Cole.
All right, let me give you the names that didn't make it. Yamamoto on the Dodgers, George. Clearly Garrett Crochet.
What are we doing about the Dodgers, Craig?
What do you mean?
Yamamoto, Glasnow,
right,
Sasaki, Kershaw. I mean, they have starters up the wazoo. They go into a six-man rotation.
Yeah, forget Kershaw. Okay, Kershaw got $7 million. Okay, that $7 million is for like August. Okay, I mean, so move on from that. He's not pitching for a while. Yamamoto is definitely in play. Sasaki is definitely in play. Ohtani,
Snell.
Ohtani's pitching right now, so how many starts does he make this year? 12, 13, probably around there. So I don't know what your question is, what do we do with the Dodgers? You draft a lot of Dodgers.
I'm staying away from their pitching. There's too many of them. These guys are going to pitch.
So
They're going to. Yamamoto,
nobody
Ohtani,
even
Snell,
makes 20 starts anymore.
Sasaki.
So I'm in on that. Let me throw some others at you. Imanaga on the Cubs. Framber Valdez on Houston. I think I'd rather have him than a lot of those guys than a lot of those guys. Max Fried, who's on the Yankees. Hunter Green on Cincinnati. I should probably try to look up when I'm talking. Joe Ryan, Minnesota. Zach Gallen, Arizona. Another good name there. Justin Steele on the Cubs. Jared Jones, Pittsburgh. Seattle has how many starting pitchers does Seattle have? They have Miller, who's really good.
Trade one for offense, Seattle. Might want to trade one of those guys for some offense there.
I'm going to stop there.
Offense.
Senga?
These guys are all good. You got to find the guy that's going to not get hurt, who's going to make
Logan Webb.
25
find the guy.
starts.
Easy for you to say.
But that's what it
find
comes
the guy
down
who's
to.
not going to get hurt.
That's what it comes down to. All these guys are good. Every guy you mentioned can be good for your fantasy team, but we have to find the ones that are going to pitch, which is why I'm not going to go with the Dodger guys because none of those guys are making 25 plus starts. Not one of them.
Yeah, but who is making 25 plus starts in baseball?
Well, every other guy you mentioned can make 25 plus. They're not battling with anybody. Maybe you're supposed to make 32 if you pitch. I'm
looking this up to prove a point. Who led the league in games started last year? Game started. Here we go. Maybe I'm wrong. No, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, hold on. A lot of guys did make 30 starts last year. Okay, yeah. Looks like 15 guys, approximately. 32, 30. 51 players. All right, so George is a fair point. I thought it would be less than that. All right,
I would have voted under 51 as well, by the way.
All right, we'll do closers next here on Fantasy Sports Today. Sam, don't worry about Saturday morning at 9:30. We're good.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs have a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports today here on SportsGrid. Closers, my gosh, is this the most overrated position in fantasy every single season? It's almost impossible to quantify, George. Like, from year to year, these guys go from being amazing to nothing. But here are some of the leaders from scoring from last season. You're just never going to catch me taking a closer high ever. Helsey is back with St. Louis again. He's at the top, as well as Josh Hader. Presley now out of the mix completely. By the way, Presley, the Cubs closer going into the season, so we should probably make sure that we keep an eye on him. Colin Ray, how did he score so high? What did I miss? How did Colin Ray score so high? He must have been.
He started a bunch of games.
Yeah. Can't use him. Class A is back at the top. Kirby Yates signs with the Dodgers. Is he going to get saves? He's got Phillips and some other guys there too. Mason Miller's a fantastic player, and I think a great option there. Mitch Spence from the Athletics also. Urseg, we should mention, too, had a big year for the Angels. Nick Martinez on Cincinnati, a starter reliever. Iglesias, Suarez. Look, it's a tough position to pick. I mean, think about this, George. Last year, one of the most saves in the league, I believe, was Finnegan on Washington. Is he on a team, Sam? Did he sign with anybody? Or is he still not on a team?
No, I think he's a free agent. I think he's still a free agent.
30-something saves? This is just the toughest position. I mean, we talk about catcher being tough. This is 38 saves for Finnegan. He's got no team this year. So, far be it from me to try to predict the top. I guess for those people who believe in the elite tiers, it's Helsey, it's Hader, it's Class A. Cleveland also has, I forget his name, the setup guy for Cleveland's also fantastic too. He had a big year as well.
It's you're looking at it now, and this list is scary. It's sort of like the list of those couple of positions we talked about: second base, first base. If you don't get one of the first couple, you might as well wait forever. And some people do that anyway, right? They don't believe in drafting relief pitchers anywhere near early. It's too volatile a position. Back when you did a lot of writing here with Daily Roto, I used to write the closer report. And my first column, which would come out right about now, would always the first paragraph would say, of over 30 closers I'm going to list here right now, half won't have the job by All-Star break. For whatever reason, poor performance, it's just
every year.
It's a volatile position. You're just better off waiting here. Sure, I'd love to have Class A, Devin Williams, Hader, Diaz, Helsley, Miller. Maybe I put Iglesias of Atlanta in here. I don't think he's a great closer there, but he's going to be the guy there. Bautista, what do we feel about him? He was great 2 years ago.
I like him. I would take I would go down that road. I would probably make sure I get Cano too, but I would go down that road.
Yes, I think it'd be a must here. And by the way, for the Dodgers, they said that I think it was Tanner Scott's going to get first shot in April, but they have too many guys there. Yates is not going to be forgotten about. If Tanner Scott slips up at all, Yates is going to get his options as well. What do we think about Alexis Diaz? I'm in on the Reds again. I think they have a good shot here.
How about Edwin?
A wild card run here.
Edwin?
I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
Edwin Diaz?
He would be in my top five, I think. I think I'll go back to the well there.
But Mason Miller's numbers were incredible, man. Like, how did Oakland come up with like three guys on the back end of that bullpen last year with him and Urseg? It was crazy.
It's a good bullpen, and once again, we don't know about the bullpen. We'd say that, but I think it's going to be more of a pitcher's park than a hitter's park there. So I think we're going to hear about Miller all year long too, Craig. All we're going to hear him is being traded to another team because everyone's going to want to be interested. I'm thinking Oakland's going to figure out by the time we're good, he'll be up in his free agent years, and we don't want to spend money on him. So maybe we'll hear that all season, but it doesn't matter because if he goes to a new team, he'll be a closer there. All right, he is that good. Love Miller. And by the way, even if he stays with Oakland, Oakland's not a terrible team. He'll probably, if he stays with Oakland and they use him as a regular closer, he'll get 30 plus saves.
Yeah, no, the guy that I was thinking of, Sam, in Cleveland's bullpen, to me, this is the number one sort of handcuff in fantasy baseball. Last year, I mean, what was happening was my son and I were just talking about like closers, like who are the best guys. Cade Smith, let me give you his numbers last year. 1.91 earned run average in 75 innings and 103 strikeouts with a whip of under one. Cade Smith on the Cleveland Guardians last year. That's a fly under the radar completely. Like, wow, did that really happen? That's why Cleveland was so good. I know they didn't win in the postseason, but that's why they were so good. They had so many good bullpen arms last year.
Yeah, it's they have to be, right? Because they took some losses during the season, didn't make any additions here. Cleveland, I mean, Clase is going to get his saves. He unless the what happened in the playoffs versus the Yankees gets to him, all the home runs he led up to Judge, Stanton, but he'll be great again. I have no doubt. He's probably my number one closer this season coming in. But I'll ask you a question. I already know your answer because you said it earlier. What's the earliest you would draft a closer?
I mean, 7th round, 6th round, I could see it.
Me too.
I'll never have the top guy. Never. I'll never have one of the top 2 or 3 guys. It's just I never have, and I've always felt like, and again, my life has changed significantly. I used to obsess over this stuff. I don't obsess anymore. I've been playing in leagues more often where you make the moves on Sunday as opposed to every day. So I used to be really good at speculating on some of the handcuff guys as opposed to the starters. Like, to me, we haven't even mentioned Duran on Minnesota. Like, I would be very comfortable having him, George, as my closer. Like, after the first 3, 4, 5, 6 guys go off, give me him later on in a draft. And I just mentioned, like, I'll take Cade Smith and wait to see what happens with Class A. I mean, Class A has had a longer shelf life for closers than just about anybody that we've seen in the past decade. Like, usually it's 2 or 3 years. The way I always describe this, Kenley Jansen, people throw his name out there. Forget those guys, okay? Like, they're unicorns. The way closers work, George, is that you're sort of elite for 2 or 3 years, and then that next year comes, whenever that is, you blow the first save, no one says nothing. You blow the second save, you start to get worried. Then the manager comes out and gives the vote of confidence, and then they blow the third save, and then they're not the closer anymore. I mean, this is clockwork for every one of these guys.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I wrote in the columns I used to write at. All right, you can get away at 1, 2. It might be the most volatile position in sports because you're costing. It may not be all your fault, but you're costing your team a game. 9th inning, you're losing the game here. Fans hate you. The media's getting on you. The manager's catching crap from the owner and the GM and everything else. It's a rough position if you're not going well. If you have one bad week, you're probably losing your job. All right, so yeah, it's tough. Generally, I used to go into it. I wanted one surefire closer. I wanted my second one to be a guy, I think he's going to keep the job. And the third guy was just, hey, we'll see what happens here. Or maybe, like you said, a handcuff, a secondary guy, that they could get the job eventually. Maybe a top guy who's better than the current closer, who I think is going to get it by, right, June, something like that here. But nowadays, getting that number one guy is not easy because there's only like 6 or 7. And you said, I'm the same as you, round 7. And I'm not going to get, those guys are all going to be gone by round 7.
Right. Like I said, I mean, Finnegan saved 38 games. That was 3rd most in the majors. He's not on a team. No team right now. I mean, that's crazy. People, they didn't want him to go through arbitration because they look at those old stats. Clay Holmes ended up finishing in the top 10 of saves. He's a starter, right? Going into the season? I believe he is a starter. Here's another name that we didn't bring up that I could be interested in. Jason Foley on Detroit. They don't score a lot. They play a lot of close games. Could he be my first closer? Yes. I could absolutely see that. So look, there's a lot of different options. You're always best, I think, finding these teams like Colorado or Miami, the teams that are going to potentially finish, maybe put Oakland finish near the bottom, get those guys. And you'll end up getting a lot of saves, in my opinion. All right, buy or sell is coming up next. You're watching Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. We're here with you until 10 a.m. Eastern. This weekend, of course, no NBA games, so we got you covered for all of the festivities for the NBA All-Star Game. Tonight's the big night, of course. Slam dunk contest, 3-point contest as well. You're watching FST. We'll be right back.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom, definitely is more deliberate in his conversations. Always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Skovron when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs have a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back, Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. We got about 15 minutes to go here on the show. Been a fun first look at fantasy baseball. It's like take that deep breath. They're all back. I mean, it really starts to get real, maybe not next week, but the week after. Once the first week of spring training games are in the books, spring games will begin next week. We'll start to break those down for you. But here on the show here, as we get toward the end, just like in football, we play a little game. It is called Buy or Sell. All right, one of the biggest fantasy baseball pitching stories of the first half of last season was the New York Yankees starting pitcher Luis Gil, who was like amazing and awesome. And slowed down at the end of last year, as most rookies do, but he was awesome, great. George is a big Yankees fan. We thought we would throw this at him to begin. Fantasy sports today, we got buy or sell. Luis Gil will be a top 20 starting pitcher this season. Boy, he was top 20 at the All-Star break, George, last year. Then there was some fall off, as you know.
Yeah, there was. I'm a Gil guy. And one thing good, the Yankees didn't slow him down this year. He should have a normal innings limit this year. They don't have a great depth. So it's not like there's somebody pushing him there. Like I said, right now, Marcus Stroman will be 6, Will Warren 7. These guys, they're not really threatening Gil at all. Top 20, I think he'll be right around it. So I'm going to buy this. Yankees should be a good team. I think they are the best team in the American League. Not the best team in baseball, but really Baltimore took a step back. Boston a step up, but not there with the Yankees. Nobody in the Central is really there. Houston, Seattle, don't see them. So I think the Yankees are the best team. You should get his share of wins, which is generally important in fantasy unless you have quality starts. If you're going quality start, that might worry me a little bit because, Boone gets a little shaky here. And guys struggle in the 5th inning here where they don't get through to the 6th inning. He goes right to that bullpen too quick here. So keep in mind there. Strikeout should be there. Yeah, I'll buy this, Craig. I'll say he'll barely get in. He'll be in that 17 to 25 range. So give me a
I'm not gonna buy this. Yeah, I'm gonna sell this one. And look, by the way, give Gil so much credit for the Yankees' success last year. While we were wondering if Garrett Cole would ever come back and pitch, this guy was out there every 5th day last season. And you think of the Yankees rotation that had Cortez for a while and Stroman for a while. It's going to look very different with Max Fried there too. Good bounce back for Rodon, by the way. But yeah, I mean, Gil was great, but no, I cannot buy this based off 1 year. I'm going to go on the outside looking in of the top 20, but that's not to say that he can't have a good year, but I'm selling this. All right, Alex Bregman goes to the Boston Red Sox. He plays second base this season. So in short order, 2 weeks into the season, 3 weeks, you'll be able in your fantasy team to play him at third or play him at second. Buy or sell, George, Alex Bregman will be the best fantasy second baseman this season. So essentially what you're doing is, at least based on rankings, is you're buying him ahead of Ketel Marte and his former teammate Alex Bregman. Or his former teammate Jose Altuve, sorry. My bad.
Ketel Marte, Semien, Altuve, Albies. I mean, the reason I'm going to sell this has nothing to do with Bregman. I'll take the field. You give me too many players here.
Yeah,
if this question would have been top three, yes, I'll take top three. But you're going to say, hey, too many things can happen here. Someone could have a breakout year. Bregman could not play well in a new stadium, even though he knows Fenway Park very well and he has a very good history there. I said, I guess as the gambler, I'm just taking the field. You give me too many options here. I'll take that somebody else is going to do that. So I'm going to sell this, even though I think he's going to have a good season.
Yeah, I should have mentioned Albies too. That was one that I missed. Yeah, this is a definitive sell for me because I will take the field as well. I think at the end of the season, he'll be in the top 5. He'll be in the top 5, but I cannot just guarantee. I mean, Marte's going to steal more bases than him. I mean, that's a big part of this as well. And by the way, Jose Altuve, never has a bad season. Almost never. So I'm going to stick with Altuve there as well. All right, now we're talking about the top of fantasy drafts. Usually it's Ohtani, Witt, and Judge in some sort of order going into the fantasy baseball season. A lot has to do with the league that you're in and how much and what you can do with Ohtani. So buy or sell, George, let's go with superstar Bobby Witt Jr. He'll be drafted higher than Aaron Judge in most leagues this season. It does seem to me to be a lot of variance based on the leagues that we're playing in. You buying or selling this?
Agreed. And by the way, it doesn't matter. You already said it, and what Craig has said is right. It's Ohtani, Judge, Witt in some order. So you're talking a difference of 1. Most leagues, it's Ohtani. The mock drafts I've done, it's always Ohtani going 1 here. I guess, once again, if Ohtani is to separate as 2 players, maybe he doesn't go 1 because if you can't give him a hitter and a pitcher, and maybe you're worried about those. Is he going to take those days off when he does pitch? He's going to miss some games there. Will he be with DH that day? Whatever. Well, probably will he be drafted higher. It's going to be close here. I have the number 2 pick in my home league. My brother's got number 1. He's already told me he's taking Ohtani. And I am going back and forth. Judge, Witt. Judge, Witt. I'm going to end up taking Judge because, once again, we start so many outfielders. And as I talked earlier, I can still get a good shortstop. I want outfielders. We start 5 here. Maybe you're going to have one in your DH as well. So I'm going to go Judge here. So I'll sell this. But, I mean, once again, if it ends up being Witt at number 2, I'm not surprised. It's going to be very close.
Yeah, and the good thing with George is that while he is a huge Yankee fan, I would give George credit. Usually in the drafts, he is impartial to that, doesn't buy into that. Yeah, I mean, this is very easy, though. Witt is either 1 or 2 in the majority of drafts, so he is ahead of Judge, and Ohtani usually is 1 or 2. So, yes, I'm buying this. All right, finally, this is a really good question for pitchers because it's rare that we go into a season with this question being asked. Paul Skeens is a top 10 pick in fantasy drafts this year, George. Is this a buy or sell? Just the opportunity to have to even mention this is sort of rare.
He's great. He's absolutely great. It won't be for me because, like I said, first round, I'm almost always taking a hitter, a top hitter. Top 10. I mean, he won't be top 5. So you're taking him over guys like Betts, Soto. No, I'm gonna sell. He'll be close. I think he's on that 12-13 turn.
Do you remember?
No, he's only a difference of 2. I'm gonna sell.
Do you remember the pitchers that were in consideration for that in the past? There's not many that were in the top 5 in fantasy. It was for years Pedro Martinez. You would do it. And there was Johan Santana. That was the other one. We'll be right back.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Skovron, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs had a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. Before we hit the SportsGrid 60, let's take a look at the competitive nature of the Boston Red Sox this offseason. Yeah, I mean, they basically, all in is maybe a little strong, but they definitely made a very big improvement off the last couple of years. It feels like they gave George their new GM, Craig Breslow, the opportunity to, really improve the team with money by signing Alex Bregman. But they also made the trade for Garrett Crochet, which is a huge one for them. And along with Walker Buehler, all of a sudden their rotation with Bayo and some others looks pretty good. They also have Aroldis Chapman, Patrick Sandoval, Justin Wilson. Are they contenders, George? Their number on FanDuel win total is 85.5. So that tells you there's still some pessimism as far as like winning the division or anything like that. And I guess the bigger question for you is that of all those players that we just mentioned, Chapman relatively healthy, and so is Bregman. The Red Sox did add some injury risk to their pitching staff too.
They did. We don't know how many innings we'll get out of Walker Buehler, a player who I really like here. Crochet, I think it's going to be fantastic. Hal Bello, maybe now they settle in as not the aces. They don't have to be that. I like what they've done. I do. When you ask, are they contenders again? Contenders for what? The World Series? No. Division? Probably not. A playoff spot? Yes. The American League is more wide open than the National League. All right. You give the 3 division winners here. I'll give it to the Yankees. I don't know, Cleveland and Seattle, just for giggles here. That leaves Houston, another team from the Central, Baltimore, Boston. It's about it. Maybe one other team. So,
yep.
It's only 2 of those teams that aren't going to make it. So, yes, I think the Red Sox are contenders for a playoff spot. I do. And that's a good – I'll never understand why they traded Mookie Betts. For a large market team, to trade Mookie Betts is still shocking to me.
They screwed up.
Good, they woke up.
No, they screwed up. There's no understanding that trade. When you make a terrible trade, you just say it was a terrible trade. That's it. All right, time now for the SportsGrid 60.
Now, listen, I love fantasy baseball. I love drafting. I can't wait till it starts in earnest next month here. Like I said, my home league is like Christmas morning. I get to open my presents when I draft my players here, so I can't wait. I'll give you a little advice for how I feel about dynasty leagues, all right, because that's coming up as well. I love playing in dynasty leagues, but one piece of advice I'll always give is that if you're drafting in a dynasty league, don't go crazy and drafting all these young players, all these top prospects, all right, because most dynasty leagues, and the first person to tell you, they don't last. All right, people, they quit. My team sucks. I don't want to play anymore. And Dynasty Leagues fizzle after a couple of years. When I draft in a Dynasty League, I pretty much draft the same way I would for a regular league. I'm drafting to win that year. Flags fly forever. I want to win now. I'll worry about next year, if there is a next year. And I certainly don't. I assume we won't be playing in 3 years anyway. Of all the Dynasty Leagues I've joined over the years, in every sport, by the way, baseball, football, and hockey, I have one that's still playing. One. And I've drafted well into 10, 15, 20 of these. They just don't last. Play to win now.
Yeah, it's great to be back talking fantasy baseball. My SportsGrid 60 is putting a bow on the football season, by the way. And it has nothing to do with that awful Super Bowl that was played last Sunday. I mean, people are actually telling me that it was like, did you watch? It was a great. I'm like, what are you talking about? This was like the worst Super Bowl that I could ever remember. It was 40-6 at one point. Just because the name is Super Bowl and there's football on a Sunday doesn't make it a great game. But what's being talked about more, and I cannot figure out why, because I don't get it and I don't understand it, and I come from a very strong DJing background, hip-hop, rap background, was this halftime show with Kendrick Lamar and Serena Williams dancing around, and this diss, or whatever it was. I don't get it. Why was Kendrick Lamar's halftime performance either awesome or terrible? Is there no in-between on this one? I don't understand. I mean, I didn't watch it live. I went back and watched it. I was like, okay, seemed fine to me. But it has become the new talking point in sports, is the Super Bowl halftime show. No one, it's like politics. No one can agree as to whether or not it was just okay, great, or terrible. I don't get it, don't understand it, but more people watched it, I guess, than any halftime show ever. For me, I still prefer the Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem one from a few years ago. Yeah, wasn't that better? I mean, but there's so much controversy over this. I don't get it. Coming up today on SportsGrid, we got in-game live game day, 4 o'clock Eastern. Scott Wetzel and Joe Madden, they got the latest from college basketball. Great college basketball schedule today. And then tonight, it's Joe Ranieri and Brady Cannon. George, we'll see you next Saturday. Have a great weekend.
You also, that's it. By next Saturday, we'll have spring training games in the books.
Indeed, we will. Thanks again to Sam for producing. That'll do it for me. I'm Craig Mish. Hope you have a great weekend. Keep it locked here to SportsGrid. We'll see you back here next Saturday morning, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. More fantasy baseball draft discussion. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you then.
Slow play grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
20 in 34. They are 14 games below 500. Any given night, you have no idea who is going to play for Philadelphia. Embiid has missed so many more games than he has actually played this year.
I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens because for the last 4 years now, I do it every year, and I want to hit myself in the head with a bat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.